This time on Video Game Tango, we catch up with the Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition. Then we've got discussions on Stellaris and the recently released Everspace. Then it's handhelds again. Tune in to find out what a Rogally is, what it does, and what it costs.
I'm Nick, and here at Video Game Tango, we review our hardware to tell you when the Rogally evolves into Rogster.
Hi, I'm Josh, and no one's talking about the biggest problem with the Blizzard acquisition, the people hunting.
My name is Andy. You are watching Video Game Tango. Yo!
Oh!
Guess what?
Bottle of rum.
It's Video Game Tango. Hey, we're back after a long hiatus. I do apologize, guys. For all of us that follow us on Facebook and Twitter, you would know, but I got real sick. Unfortunately, we're going to start with the downer. I got long COVID.
You got COVID 3 times.
So it turns out I get sick really easily, and when I do get sick, it's really fucking violent. So
also, the urn we got you is non-refundable.
So it's
It's kind of a bummer for all of us, honestly.
Yeah. Well, listen, I just need to get sick one more time, and it'll have paid for itself.
Well, do you have a punch card?
Two. Yeah.
So you couldn't find the first one.
Yeah, I couldn't find the. Yeah, so once we combine them, we'll almost be there.
Okay.
So so I got real sick, doctor shit, all that stuff I had to do. It's been a while. So my voice hasn't been able to hold out for more than like a half hour's worth of talking. And with the preamble before the podcast, et cetera, it's
hearing it.
It's barely holding out now. So I really have to project to make voice happen. So it might be a little bit of a short one, just depending on how long it hangs out. Stupidly, we've been going for 2 hours live. I read 2 short stories about Josh murdering us with a sword generated by ChatGPT.
We understand why the writers are on strike.
Yeah, ChatGPT did a really good job making short stories for us. So we were just having fun with those for a little while, and the banter that happens between us all the time.
Led to some doozies, let me tell you.
It really did. We've been fucking laughing our asses off for the last 2 hours. So make sure
you donate to our Patreon, and maybe you can see those too.
We don't have one yet, but
damn it, sorry.
Make sure you watch us live. If you're listening to this after the fact, Wednesdays, 9 o'clock ish Pacific time, we go live. So check us out on twitch.tv/videogametango. So other than that, we do talk about video games here on this podcast sometimes.
A little bit.
So let's get started with that.
Video game.
Let's do some follow-up on the Activision Blizzard acquisition.
My favorite video game.
It's the best. So during our hiatus, the CMA has...
Country Music Awards.
That's the one.
Chief
Thank you.
Moldy asshole.
I literally just read it, remembered it, and was about to say it, and now I have to fucking look it up again. It's the Competition and Market Authority. I forget what the CMA stands for every time I bring it up. Okay. But it's the Competition and Market Authority for the EU. Has
the EU? Or
for the UK. Okay.
Everybody's urethra?
Well, listen, I'm going to be saying EU, UK, CMA, like a bunch. So if I trip up, my
cockles.
bad. But the CMA has declined the Activision Microsoft merger.
They said no.
I'll say, bruv, we've given it propaganda and we're going to go ahead and decline.
So the Competition and Markets Authority has found the anticipated acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft Corporation may not be expected to result in a substantial lessening of competition in console gaming services in the UK. However, the CMA has found that the merger may be expected to result in an SLC in cloud gaming services in the UK. An SLC being...
super lame consumers.
Something like that. It says later on. Basically, it means monopolization. In relation to console gaming services, we found that Xbox and PlayStation compete closely with each other and that Activision's Call of Duty is important to the competitive offering of each. The evidence suggests, however, that Microsoft would not find it financially beneficial to make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox after the merger. We also found that making Call of Duty available on Xbox on better terms than on PlayStation would not materially harm PlayStation's ability to compete. On this basis, we found that the merger would not substantially reduce competition in console gaming services in the UK. Part 3 is in relation to cloud gaming services, we found that Microsoft already has a strong position. It owns a popular gaming platform, Xbox, and a large portfolio of games. the leading PC operating system Windows, and a global cloud computing infrastructure, Azure and Xbox Cloud Gaming, giving it important advantages in running a cloud gaming service. With an estimated 60 to 70% market share in global cloud gaming services, it is already much stronger than rivals. What it goes on to say is that it's not looking at the console competition. It's not looking at the gaming industry as we come to think of it as its competition. It ruled against the acquisition because of Microsoft's strength in cloud gaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
That feels a little unfair. Because Microsoft there already has an unfair advantage in cloud gaming. It's fucking Microsoft, so they have like the cloud, but their number one competitor, Stadia, right? Google Stadia.
Well,
Stadia
that wouldn't be their number one competitor.
Well, it was right. It's gone. It's been gone for a hot, so there's no other big like tech guy in that arena right now, right? So, I mean,
you have to think about the fact that every like Sony has a cloud thing.
They do,
right?
But however, that's built on Azure.
Yes,
Right.
I mean, so I'm just saying it's hard to say like point at the only fish in the pond and be like, well, it's unfair that you have like, I mean, I don't know, that just seems a little unfair. And I know it seems like I go to bat for Microsoft quite a bit, but I just like, I mean, there's plenty of real things to be concerned about. Like, I don't know, maybe it is a real thing. I don't know. It just seems to me that there's not.
Well, if we don't get lost in the weeds here,
huge-
if we're saying that Microsoft has like the cloud computing service, then it makes sense that they would deny the merger.
And that's what it says, is that they do have the strongest service, and it's estimated that the use of Xbox cloud gaming services equates to 60 to 70% of overall cloud
And that's
compute and in gaming.
So they already. I'm just saying they already have the unfair advantage there because there is.
So why not just let
So why not give them more?
No, well, that's just. I mean, if there was a real competitor, they don't have a real competitor in that stadium though. In
Here's the
that
thing is,
field,
like,
so like that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
the rest of those guys are broken up over small, like very small, not a chance to compete against Microsoft, and them getting or not getting this deal isn't going to change their ability to compete against Microsoft because they already can't. And like I'm just saying, throw up an actual fucking reason. That kind of seems like that should be like a third or like a fourth or fifth tier reason. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm with you that it seems like a strange reason to hinge the whole thing on, but I also don't know the numbers. If they're saying that the cloud gaming makes up 70% of XYZ or whatever, that's a majority of whatever it is they're talking about. And even if they are already the majority, go ahead and give it to them. That makes it just that much harder for anyone else to then compete in the future.
So that as the counter, I didn't really think about that as the counter. That's a very good reason not to give it to them, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin is if you make them bigger now before they have any competition, how do you breed any competition, right?
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about that is Microsoft is combating that by contacting owners of these other cloud compute and gaming services. Specifically, they have already made a 10-year contract with NVIDIA to put their games on the NVIDIA cloud gaming platform, which they're arguably the second or third largest.
That would be their competitor, right?
One of them, a big one.
A big competitor.
Yeah, in the grand scheme.
Yeah.
But also, Ubitus or Ubitus. It's hard to understand it's hard to know what the pronunciation of that is because it's Japanese. But they've also given them the same terms as they said, hey, we'll give you a 10-year licensing deal for all of our games to be on like everything that is on the Xbox cloud gaming marketplace will also be on yours. They gave him a 10-year deal with Boosteroid as well, which is the UK's largest, other than Microsoft and Sony's cloud gaming platforms, their biggest cloud gaming platform.
And they did this in response to the answer of the suit?
Well, they've been working on this since before the suit, and these have been finalized since. So it's
still... The problem is if you already have somebody at the top and they're saying, hey, well, we don't have the majority because we're going to be making deals with the smaller groups, Microsoft still benefits from those partnerships. Right. It's still a license, like you said. And regardless of how much like free shit they're giving their smaller competitors, that's like the American Navy saying, we'll let them borrow an aircraft carrier for $1 million. It's, we don't have to be the only ones that use the aircraft carriers.
No, for sure. Yeah. It still disseminates their product. Like
they're still getting something out of it.
Yes. They are the beneficiaries of all of this. Definitely. While it means that it may for a little while impact their bottom line, it's probably not the biggest hit ever. This is going to be a calculated move by them.
Yeah.
They're going to make money on this eventually, right?
Of course, it's a calculated move, but in the same sweep, it is giving these smaller guys I imagine a sweetheart deal on the license for 10 years.
Yeah,
and they're like they would have to that company right now can't afford to get those games. And
let's think about it this way though. That is great for them. Right? Imagine if somehow like Walmart was able to share its profits with mom and pop stores and like have a license deal with them. At the end of the day,
Walmart's still
Walmart, right? Like
I get that. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
There's no way that Microsoft could license something to a competitor and the competitor then overtakes Microsoft because of that deal.
Right.
No, I get that the competitor is not like, but they are.
It's nice.
At the very least, they're getting something. I mean, I feel like that's especially in this like corporatist time we live in.
Yeah.
That's the fact that they're just willing to hand out some without being forced to, right? Like it was already in the works beforehand. They're not being forced to. So it's like, I don't know. It feels so weird to defend Microsoft.
It does. It's a bit weird.
But so like, I mean, I understand why they're doing it. It's to make money. Nobody spends $70 billion because they don't think they're going to make a fucking, this is an investment.
Yeah.
But the way I'm looking at it is like, I don't know. It's like a deal on Activision Blizzard is going to go through somewhere, whether it gets shattered sold to 5 companies, broken apart, which is, I mean, somebody is getting a golden parachute out of this deal, whether it's Microsoft and it's one big one, or Bobby Kotick floats down like an army airdrop from a big ass helicopter on 3 different parachutes. Someone's floating away on a golden parachute on this. So the way, I don't know, it's just like at least Microsoft is being benevolent in their corporatist dealings, I guess. And it's
on the surface, and at least
on the surface, and in the short term, it does seem to be benefiting gamers. So, and people wanting.
We have yet to see that. It looks like it might benefit.
That's why I said in the short term,
you know.
And it seems like there's a lot of variables there still. I get it, but man, I don't know.
You'll never know until they're acquired.
Yeah,
right?
it's true. It's true.
I mean, they could just fire everybody and say that because Microsoft has invested heavily in AI. So, with Microsoft money, you can invest heavily into AI. And who's to say that they're going to keep any of the developers? Maybe they just need the IPs, right?
That could be, yeah.
Yeah. So who knows, right?
Who knows? Yeah.
You really never know. They're gonna lube you up real hard before they fuck you if they're going to, and we're in the lube phase.
In this day and age, you don't have to lube up. Like, honestly, dude, corporate America corporate companies just hand out fuckings. They just hand out fuckings.
Sure.
And they call them coupons.
So Microsoft, thank you for the lube.
At the very least, I guess.
So there's more about this. So, in classic Microsoft Activision Blizzard style, they're going hard on their appeal against the CMA. They have just hired Queen Elizabeth II's former lawyer to handle their appeal. I love how big of a fucking dick swing that is. Just being like, all right, well, your queen's dead. We hired her lawyer. We're appealing your bullshit, your bullshit answer to our proposition here. Go. That's fun. I thought that was just a fun little tidbit.
Yeah.
EA has put their words into this hat.
EA is the noise I make when I think about EA.
It's interesting. So they've commented on the acquisition, and they say it doesn't matter to them. Interestingly enough,
yeah, dude, it's not a phone game. They don't give a shit.
Well, I mean, EA doesn't make that many phone games compared to something like King. You know, King owned by Activision Blizzard, ABK, Activision Blizzard King. So Andrew Wilson, the EA CEO, said, "We think we have the scale, again, back to our network, our IP, and our talent, to continue to navigate the future and lead the future of entertainment and compete in the marketplace, regardless of whether that deal goes through or not." Wilson said in EA's latest earnings call, "I think that we have tremendous assets with respect to the future of entertainment, but as it stands today, I think we're indifferent as to whether the Microsoft Activision sale goes through or not. We feel like we have an incredible strategy. We feel like we have an incredible opportunity, and whether it goes through or not, we'll continue to be the #1 publisher on the Microsoft platform." So whether they're shitting their pants behind the scenes or not, who knows? But it looks like so far they're relatively indifferent to the sale of Activision Blizzard.
They're still jamming off that 20K12 basketball money, baby. They got that John Madden money.
I mean,
they ain't worried.
Yeah, but EA lost FIFA.
EA's mobile revenue increased 82% in
I believe it.
2022, up to like a quarter of a
Totally.
a third of $1 billion.
It's like
100%. But I'd say that's
no one's offered. We ain't offered to be bought out by anybody. We doing just fine.
But you're probably looking at similar results to all of the major publishers. Is that
they own their mobile portion leads the charge. They own Sims. They own all the sports games. Yeah. They own Apex Legends. So
oh man, I do.
They don't own their biggest cash cow of all time though. FIFA's gone.
Wow.
Yeah, FIFA is no longer gone. FIFA's contract with EA did not get renewed for 2023.
Burn to the ground.
Yeah, who cares?
We need soccer too.
Again, more Activision Blizzard news. It looks like the EU is probably in position to approve the acquisition. The only ones really left are the CMA. They're going to appeal that. The FTC, that's still a worrisome bunch of people. Of course, they've got their lobbyists. Who knows? They might get paid off well enough that it'll pass.
They'll be fine.
But yeah, so far, the CMA has been the only one to deny the merger. Interesting stuff. And then one more thing from Activision Blizzard. Let's go back to the return to work situation. I'm going to read directly from Kotaku here. So the beginning of the article starts, "It's a pivotal moment for Blizzard and some developers. They're worried the company is facing an unnecessary wave of departures that could hamper games like World of Warcraft, long-running MMO whose recent Dragonflight expansion was praised by critics and players alike. At least a few employees say the studio's mandatory return to office in July is making things worse, but that management is pushing ahead with it anyway." This comes from a tweet. "Being loud about it because I've lost yet another person this week," World of Warcraft game producer Adam Glaxagrav wrote in April. "We are creating crisis maps of what we can or cannot ship. That is the loss of capacity we're facing."
Good.
Yeah. So Activision Blizzard seems to be really sticking to their forced return to office. Interestingly enough, I'm going to read further because it just gets worse. So the thread garnered other responses from Blizzard devs frustrated with the apparent situation, IGN reported at the time. "Forced RTO has cost us some amazing people and will continue to cost us more in the coming months," WoW senior designer Allison Steele wrote. "Ain't this the fucking truth," responded fellow senior designer Mark Coletta. A Blizzard spokesperson said at the time that crisis maps weren't a team practice for WoW, but the decisions are made around what things to prioritize during game development. It goes on to say that not only are people being fired over their unwillingness to return to office, but that some of the people that are managing the RTO are recent hires. Like since they have announced the RTO, that were hired specifically to run this from home. So the managers that are managing return to office
fucking kidding me?
were hired specifically to run this.
And they're doing it from their homes?
They're doing it remotely.
That's about right.
Oh my God.
It's just, man, that's fucking gross, dude.
Oh, our crisis maps.
That's like comic book level evil. That's like comically evil. Like, what? Are you kidding me?
No, unfortunately, I'm not.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. So here's that quote. So Activision Blizzard has promised to grant remote work exceptions for some employees, but 2 current developers told Kotaku the process for requesting them was opaque, and anecdotally at least, few managed to attain them. Meanwhile, recent high-level hires responsible for selling employees on the policy, like Chief Administrator Brian Bulatow and Chief Communications Officer Lulu Chang Maservi, have full-time remote status.
Yep.
Cool.
Good times. This is while Sony, Bungie, Respawn have all come out with huge AAA titles and all remote work, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I want them all burned down. Every single one of them.
It's so frustrating to watch the sheer level of, I don't know, maybe they're seeing this as an opportunity to cut the fat, right? Or so some fucking evil asshole would say.
It's just control. That's all they want. They want a reason to have their giant buildings that they pay taxes on. They want to be able to micromanage. They want to be able to squeeze out every second of productivity from the workers they can because it makes them more money. Mm-hmm. And they cannot squeeze extra time out of somebody who's working at home, who's doing their job and doing what they're asked to do and doing enough because they're at home.
Yeah.
It's also super hard to pressure that girl on her first day at work into drinking too much when she's working from her house.
That's true, dude. That's true.
Super hard to get them to come to the
That is of course, reference to the problems that Activision Blizzard had with sexual harassment in the workplace recently. So,
they just want justification for paying taxes on buildings and shit like that. It's like, great, fucking sell that building, dog. Let's turn it into apartment complexes.
For sure.
Turn it into Blizzard apartments. Rent it out to people. Let them work there from home.
Yeah, there you go. Problem solved.
There you go. You just pay them to live there.
Dude, I'm just saying. Fuck.
Fair enough. So that's all I have to say on the topic of Activision Blizzard. I just wanted to give us a little bit of a catch up as far as the merger goes and as far as the bullshittery that happens over at the Activision Blizzard campus.
That's all I have to say about that yet.
Not surprised. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, it's weird, huh?
Over the last month, I've played a handful of games. The only ones really worth talking about that were relatively new is probably Everspace 2. The first one was a roguelike, played a bit like Descent or any kind of third-person space sim. This one went more open world, action RPG. Really great until you realize about 15, 20 hours in that every map and every mission and every puzzle are the same.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun, and then I was like, okay, I kind of ready for the story to keep going, see where this is going, and it's just it never ceased.
That's
same
too bad.
Stuff over and over again.
Did it feel mechanically good? Because we talked a little bit about that while watching the gameplay trailer.
It had a similar problem with the first one, and there's a lot of enemies. Mind you, your weapons, the short range weapons, go out to 800 meters, right? Long ones are 3.5 clicks, 5 clicks. A lot of the enemies will come up within 50 meters of you and circle you. And this is a mouse-controlled flight sim. So you've got a bit of a dead zone so that you can manually aim.
Yeah.
Using WASD to move around. So with a joystick, your ability to control your aim, it's sluggish.
Yeah.
Right. And it feels good in a sense, but when you've got multiple enemies literally up your own butthole flying in circles around you, you cannot keep track of what's going on in the battle.
Right.
which meant that 90% of my build led into a sniper build where you stay far away, you unload a payload and take as many as you can. And when they start getting too close, you zoom away and do it again. And that's fun for the first 5 hours until you're like, every battle I need to thin the herd from a distance. And it's like, I'm just looking at pixels, you know, sniping at pixels. Like,
sniping at pixels before you engage.
Yeah, it does some really cool stuff. It reminded me a lot of the old Descent games. It reminded me a little bit about Free Space. Some of the puzzles are kind of fun. You got to find like an energy emitter and pick up an energy cube and take it somewhere else on the map. And each map's like a little solar system or whatnot. You know, flying through asteroid fields and interior buildings, and you know, you're upside down, and it was very neat. Story's nothing to write home about, but it was fine. But yeah, it's just too repetitive, and it was an interesting direction to take. Because again, the first game played similarly, but it was a roguelike. You know, it wasn't anywhere similar to this ongoing campaign.
It's interesting that they changed the formula of the game that much for a sequel.
Yeah, I think they were kind of aiming for that roguelike dearth that we had. Deluge, is that a better word?
Yeah.
And they were trying to get in on that, and they realized, oh, it's kind of dying. And what are we? I mean, given that most of the game was pretty similar to the first one, if it was also roguelike, it wouldn't have felt like much was different than the first one. Right. I played a few others. Ash of War, which is kind of like a Gwent knockoff, Banner Saga knockoff. And it was fine and great. I was really enjoying it, but the difficulty spikes were so wildly all over the place that it turned me off on the game. Other than that, been playing a lot of Stellaris. Stellaris has had, I think, 2 DLCs since we last recorded.
Yeah.
They almost came out back to back. Good things and bad things. Thankfully, the modders are there to fix the ridiculously bad decisions some of the devs have made. But, you know, given if you use the mods to fix these problems, it's in a great state. Vanilla Stellaris is a strange, quizzical, sad beast.
It's ready for Stellaris too.
But we've got room for more. But
sure.
It's nearing. We're 7-8 years now into Stellaris.
I mean, we were kind of talking about that the other day. Just the old, like it's so old at this point. And they've added so much new stuff. The code is just, it's like a Frankenstein's monster in there.
I am surprised and always proud of how much they managed to do.
Yeah, it's incredible. We'll stitch it together. And then again, that beloved modding community keeping it fucking strong.
The particular problem with this one is they overhauled the leaders. So in a nutshell, you have leaders of like your science divisions and your generals for your armies and your admirals for your fleets and your governors for your sectors and planets and whatnot. And it wasn't a very big system in the game. It's a minor thing that you kind of just attend to.
There's a little hard bonus. You throw in the guy, little hard bonus. He develops stuff. Yeah,
and they get old enough, they die. You replace them with a new one, and you have to train up somebody new. Sometimes there's some neat events stuff revolving around leaders. Well, they overhauled that. Now you have like a council, and you have a science directorate, somebody to head all of your science, and a war directorate who heads all of your war stuff, and then a general leader of your empire. And they moved around the bonuses, and they added some new traits and stuff. There's a really flashy looking screen for your council. Kind of looks like a Star Wars hologram thing. The problem is trying to figure out exactly what benefits you're getting from all of your guys combined. There's no screen for it. So you just kind of like hover around and like, I know I'm just learning the system. Some part of it's that, but also it's just obtuse for no reason. On top of that, early game Stellaris, most builds are going to build between like 3 and 5 science ships, each of which needs a science leader. They're going to have at least 1 admiral for their fleet early game. 1 or 2 governors, probably getting up to 3 as you get more sectors.
That sounds correct.
So you're up to about maybe 10 leaders. Mid-game...
Each of your tech guys counts as a leader as well.
They changed it so now there's only 1 science guy for your tech, which is good and bad, but I'll get to that in a minute. So you get to mid-game, a build's going to have anywhere between 5 and 15 science leaders. Depends entirely on what you're doing. You can have a science leader per planet assisting research, and you can have them digging into archaeological sites and exploring past your borders. You've got 3 to 7 fleets, which each need an admiral if you want them to be competitive, at least 1 general for your armies, maybe 2 if you're committing a lot of war. if you've gone wide and you got lots of sectors, you need governors, it's not unreasonable to have 20 plus leaders, right? There is now a starting cap of 6 leaders, which if you spec into it, you can get up to like 8 or 9. And if you spec hard into it, you can get to 10. It's a soft cap, but if you go over it, you get 10% leader XP across the board and 10% more cost upkeep for each leader across the board. I don't know if that's additive or multiplicative, but those numbers are harsh and that stacks, right? So like I had 6 leaders in the first 20 minutes of playing, right? And it's like you made this cool new leader system and then just randomly decided to put a leader limit for no reason. Like I don't see why there needed to be a leader limit. It also makes 99% of builds now unplayable because I used to build 4 to 5 science ships early game. Yep. That's 5 of my 6 leaders that you can't run a science ship without a leader in it, right? So I can't do that. So now my ability to explore is hampered and my ability to expand is hampered because I can't find planets as quickly. And it's like I can't even afford to have a general because all this stuff. So immediately modders like day one were like, okay, here are mods to increase the base size to 9, 15, 20, 30, and 60, right? Like whatever you want to do. But yeah, it just irks me. It's like, why would you put that
Understandable.
in there? What does it solve? What does it do? How does it make the game more fun?
Yeah.
How does it make the game more balanced?
You're limiting my play and my creativity for what reason again?
Yeah.
Hey man, look at all these cool leaders and all their new benefits and talents we gave them. You get 5.
Yeah, they say no.
Yeah. On top of that, your leaders usually they start with one trait. It could be like carefree. So they travel faster or something like that. And each leader type, science, general, admiral, had stuff that fit their stuff. Now they've added a glut of new traits to the pool that are like, this scientist generates 4 minerals. Like one common level worker starts at like 6 to 8 minerals. Like these leaders, which are supposed to be the head of an empire, are generating less than like 1 pop's worth of growth, taking up an entire trait slot. And you only get a refresh of your leader pool to pick new leaders from every 5 years. So it's like, oh, great. 3 food on my scientist, where it used to be 10% more research across the board, right? So I don't know. It's just weird decisions.
That's silly, Billy.
Yeah. But that's what I've been playing a lot of. My mods broke. I had some good games, and I tried out the new Stellaris, and I'm going to probably wait on that.
Yeah. Now, did your mods break because of the update?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
the leader overhaul system was a lot of change to the code, and they'll be back. But,
sure, yeah. I mean, it just takes the developers to update them for the, of course, yeah. Definitely. Well, Josh, you got something for us?
Yeah. In our time away, I downloaded and have been playing Jedi Survivor. When it lets me. We'll get back to that. Now, my experience with Jedi Survivor has been a bit of an odyssey.
That was a double pun there. Yeah. Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yes. It came opening night. I'm being punished because I pre-downloaded the game and I pre-bought it. I should have waited until after it came out, and it would have been fine. But I bought it a whole 3 hours before it was released on the West Coast.
That's got to count for something, right?
Right? And I re-downloaded it, and then I went and hung out for a bit, and I came back, was all excited to play, and it was fucking patching. I saw it before I left. It said play, and it was just grayed out. It was ready to go. All it needed was time.
Yeah.
And I get back and it says fucking patching. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Already? It's no. And so I click on the little download button on Steam and it says 22 days. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. What?
You gotta patch the whole game.
What in the name of Han and Leia is going on here? This cannot be. So I finally, there was a whole rigmarole. I had to delete it out of the thing there, but then my hard drive and clear the cache, but my hard drive didn't know I cleared the cache, and I had to ask the store politely to let me have my space back in my hard drive. So I finally get it going. and I've had some crashes. Like, let's just get the bad out of the way. So I've had some crashes. Most of them have been startup crashes. Now, in the last 2 days, it's been rough enough that after 4 times of it crashing in a row when I'm trying to start it, I've just given up and haven't played the game. So that sucks.
Yep.
Way to put it. That sucks. And then I've only had 2 in-game crashes where once the game's been running where it's just crashed, and both times have been like right after I've done like a fucking white knuckling nut busting fucking run where I've spent 45 minutes seemingly just bashing my face against my computer screen trying to like do the thing, and I finally get it done, and then and I'm like, no. Nope. Absolutely not. Nope. Not for the rest of the day.
It's a stand up, hands in the air.
Not for the rest of the day.
I mean, I applaud you for trying.
However, and then the other little thing is sometimes when there's a lot going on, because I have it set on the high settings. I got a pretty tit system, and I want to run it at the settings that it deserves. Sometimes it chugs. Like it just feels like there's just some poor optimization there or something. I don't really know, because it's seemingly random. Like it'll be like there's too many things blowing on the screen for a second when the wind kicks up, and all of a sudden just the game just
It's not just your system. It's happening to everyone who owns the game.
I know it's not, like, because I know it's not the system. Like, even because its ratings, honestly, its recommended settings are fairly moderate. Like they're fairly reasonable. The top end of reasonable, I feel like.
The top end of reasonable, yes.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it?
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I get what you're saying.
It makes perfect sense. But it chugs sometimes, and it's just like, oh God, I hate it for a second there, because I have like the badass monitor, I have all the things, and I paid the money for the good thing, so I want it.
Yeah,
but
no, I get you. With your computer, there should be no stuttering. I mean, ray tracing aside, like if you have ray tracing without like DLSS on, that might be your fault. But
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like with your settings and DLSS on, you should not be having major frame skips or anything. You should be getting at least 60 plus FPS. Like at the end of the day, if the PS5 and the Xbox Series X can do it, your machine is more than
should
capable,
be exactly.
Right? Yeah, so it's just an optimization thing.
Now, that being said, with those issues out of the way, once they get those things figured out, like this is in the running for Game of the Year, guys. Yeah. Like everything that was right with Fallen Order, excuse me, with Fallen Order is extra right in this. And they fixed a lot of the wrong.
It's the very top of reason.
Exactly.
Well, we have an episode title.
Yeah.
So the fast travel is fucking life. And the other little thing that I noticed very quickly and super appreciate is the game saves every time you hit a meditation point, which it didn't do in the first game. So you'd have to find yourself constantly refreshing and having to refight stupid fucking enemies while you were traveling a fucking year in a direction. And it made traversing to re-get things super fucking difficult. Not the case here. I've already gone back to a few places and been like, oh, look, boy, that was easy, and fun. The customization off the fucking charts. So fucking good. Like the poncho, it's gone, baby. Bye poncho. You don't need it anymore.
Customize it out.
Gone are the days.
Just out.
Just out. 5 very different fighting styles. I was concerned that with trying to do so many, they were going to wind up, a couple of them were going to wind up feeling the same, like the single saber and the blaster, and the saber. Mm-hmm. I thought, honestly, it's going to be a lot of the same kind of moves with that single saber. It is very different styles.
And you were saying that you get to even customize the blaster, right?
And then exactly, and just about every bit of your kit is customizable. You can customize the blaster, BD, and of course your lightsaber in a plethora of ways. There are expanded character interactions with old characters that we're familiar with and that we love from Fallen Order. And there's a couple of new characters that we're going to be, oh, good Lord. A couple of new characters that you're going to get to enjoy meeting and interacting with. There is a huge exploration feel to this. Oh my God. I mean,
less linear than the previous.
Very much so. So there is a bit of an open world, like open world. Like there's much more room for exploring. So yeah, I mean, oh my God, the things they got right in this game are absolutely great. When I get to fucking play it,
when it doesn't take 7 reloads and a reinstall the game for it to work.
Yeah, I tried fighting the Rancor for a half hour, and then I've just given up. I'm going to come back once I have more skill.
It's just T-posing action.
But it's so fun. There's so many times where the platforming of the game feels so fluid that I'm just like, dude, I felt like a Jedi doing that. That felt fucking cool. It felt cool doing it. So
it is fantastic when a game's so smooth. It pulls you out of the game when you realize how awesome it feels.
Yeah. Oh man, it was really good. So there's, like I said, there is so much right with it. Just wait for them to fix everything in 2 months and then buy it.
At least you didn't buy Redfall.
Oh my God! Yeah, let's talk about Redfall. We didn't get to talk about Redfall.
We could just vomit for the next 5 minutes.
That's true. We could make those auditory sounds, and that would be the same service.
We talked about Redfall a couple months ago. Now,
yeah, I mean,
it looked
pre-release.
Great,
well,
right?
we did have pause. We did have some concern when talking about it.
Wait and see.
Yeah, but
it looked good.
Sure. Yeah, everything that we could see from the trailers. Yeah, a little Left 4 Dead. I'm just gonna say right now. I said that it looked like it was gonna be more like an Assassin's Creed or a Far Cry, and it turns out pretty much correct on that front. And the AI looks pretty bad. The fact that there's like no enemies in the general map is pretty bad. That like other than focal points in the map, there isn't a whole lot to do.
I mean, I think the best way to put it, instead of going through all the list of things that are wrong with Redfall, is just say that the amount of problems people are having trying to play Fallen Order is at the same weight as the amount of problems with Redfall in general.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even just launching the game or running bad. The gameplay, the development, everything across the board is a shit cyclone inside of a shit storm.
Yeah,
right?
It looks pretty bad.
Shit NATO.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Anyone who's like following game news is going to know about this stuff. And of course, the amazing PR apology. I'm sorry from Chucklefuck McGillicuddy over there.
From Phil Spencer?
Yeah, Chucklefuck McGillicuddy.
I mean, he just said he was really disappointed.
I'm really disappointed this game we made didn't come out the way it
To be fair, Phil Spencer didn't have to say anything. That came from Arcane Studios.
Yeah, okay. Well, they're the money people, and I'm sure if you read
Studios,
his apology, it's
that's
as PR as it
Batman.
gets.
No,
Yeah.
it is for sure, yeah.
It's Dishonored, it's Deathloop, it's Prey.
Okay, not the Batman games.
No.
That's Rocksteady.
Rocksteady.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Ugh.
So, I get stressed out thinking about the crunch time of the devs and whatnot. They're looking at this game, it's coming out in 6 months, and they know it's garbage. And like, trying to empathize, putting myself in their shoes, knowing that like this game is going to be awful and they're going to have to release it because no one wants to come out and just say, hey, we made something that's shit and it's going to be shit if we release it. Let's not release it. Because they've been doing ads all over the place. So they've been talking this game up and showing all these trailers. I don't know when we're going to learn.
No, I mean, yeah, and the unfortunate thing is like, what is on the Xbox? What, what is coming from Xbox that puts their consoles on the map? So far, it is nothing. And Redfall was supposed to be linchpin, right?
Yeah,
you had
it was
Redfall, Starfield. Those games were supposed to put the Xbox back on the map. Unfortunately, Redfall is a bit of a red fail.
Ayo.
And it didn't happen. Starfield. Of course, there's news on Starfield.
all the time.
Again, I have no faith in Starfield, but that's coming from me. I just don't
like
have
Bethesda.
Exactly. So
Starfield's going to be garbage. I'll just put my hand out there.
Also, of course, confirmed today or yesterday. There's going to be.
Why would you just assume it's going to be bad?
Because I've been having two eyeballs. Over the last few years.
I mean, Fallout 4 was all right.
Yeah, you're right. Fallout 4 is like fucking 8 years old, man. Yeah.
So that means this game should be good.
Fallout.
You have to remember that 76 has come out since then.
Yes.
Okay, so
and all these other AAA games that release like a pile of hot dog water.
And the more ambitious the project, it seems, the further they stretch themselves, the less time they give themselves.
Almost as much, if not more, hype at this point than fucking Cyberpunk did.
It has.
That turned out fantastic.
Yeah. Remember No Man's Sky? Starfield is literally No Man's Sky 2.
I hope it's great.
Of course.
I always do. No Man's Sky got better, though.
I'm just saying.
It did get better. It wasn't great when it was released, but it's good now.
And it's the only one that did that.
That's
an opinion. It's an opinion.
It's an opinion.
But mostly true.
I'm an old, crotchety, grognard gamer, and I've seen a lot. And the skies are telling me that it's going to fucking rain, and I believe them.
Also, there's going to be in-game purchases in Starfield that got confirmed either yesterday or today.
Of course there is.
So,
why wouldn't that be
It's
in
going to be
doubt?
ass. All right, fine. I'm on the ass wagon.
So before we wrap up, because we're getting close on time, I do want to do a little bit more follow-up from the last podcast as well. We talked a pretty lengthy segment about the upcoming consoles, their competition, their price points, etc., or handheld consoles rather. I'd like to correct myself. So we talked pretty specifically about the Asus ROG Ally coming out and how it may be a Steam competitor, seeing as it's coming from a known brand, Asus, who's been making gaming peripherals technology for decades now. They're my preferred manufacturer for motherboards, not necessarily graphics cards, but they do make some pretty fucking solid hardware. So on April 1st, they announced that they were coming out with a handheld gaming device called the Ally, the ROG Ally, and
I don't know if I like that name, but whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of whatever. It's the dude.
We're gonna call it the Rogally.
I'm calling it the Rogally from now on.
It is. Yep.
So they gave it to a few YouTubers to get hands on and first impressions. I did watch the Linus Tech Tips one, and from what he had to say, I mean, most of it was under massive NDA. Asus representatives were literally there on site while filming.
This is a handheld of all time.
Yes, that's true.
That's what he said.
No, he had some pretty good things to say about the Rogally, and that it had excellent speakers. The screen was fantastic. It is 120 hertz 1080p versus the 720p 60 hertz of the Steam Deck. So really good screen. Like it's it's like the Switch versus the Switch OLED. It makes a pretty big difference, and it comes with an additional better refresh rate. So if 60 FPS just isn't your cup of tea and you can't live without more than that, which is a little bit me, then the Rogally might be for you. But some things that have been confirmed about the Rogally. Now, the Rogally comes out as of recording tomorrow in like 7.5 hours. So we don't have anything super confirmed.
It's already out.
No, that's not true. It launches worldwide at the same time. So some things are still rumored. Some things are confirmed. A couple confirmations. It's using an AMD Ryzen Z1 series. This is a brand new SoC, otherwise known as system on a chip, that has a combined CPU and GPU, or otherwise known as a graphics card. It looks like it's going to be either two varieties. It's going to have 6 cores and 12 threads with 22 megabytes of cache, or 8 cores and 16 threads with 24 megabytes of cache. Theoretically speaking, on paper, the better of the two, the Z1 Extreme with the 8-core 16 threads, has the performance capabilities of 2 Steam Deck processors. So it is 100% better than the original Steam Deck processor. It runs cooler, is more efficient, and is more powerful. And that's been true. The lineup that AMD has been doing for quite some time is every successor is more efficient, more powerful, and just better all around. And we're seeing that continue here in the handheld market as well. It comes with a 7-inch, 16:9 aspect ratio, full HD. That's 1920 by 1080, 120 hertz refresh rate, touchscreen, and up to 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now, it does look like there's going to be 2 SKUs, so there may be like a 8 or 12 gigabyte version and a 16 gigabyte version. That is still unconfirmed. Okay. Again, another thing, unconfirmed, alleged, it will have up to 512 gigabytes of storage. What's being assumed right now is the less expensive one comes with 256 gigabytes of NVMe storage, and the more powerful of the two comes with 512 gigabytes of NVMe storage. A couple things on features. The Steam Deck does have more buttons and interfaces with which you can control things. The Steam Deck has those 2 touchpads on the front.
Okay.
The ROG Ally does not have an equivalent. And that'll be interesting. I'll bring that up again here in just a short minute.
Do we know how many buttons it has?
Yes.
Because having more or less is kind of whatever. It depends on the number.
We do, and I'll get into that in just a second. So as far as like the difference in interface, it doesn't have the touchpads. It also has 2 fewer buttons on the back, where the Steam Deck has 2 finger buttons per side.
So 4
total back buttons. The ROG Ally only has 1 on either side, so it's just 2 buttons. So as far as buttons go, it is 2 analog sticks, 1 left, 1 right. It is a directional button or a directional pad. It's a circular D-pad. It's got A, B, and X, Y buttons, so standard Xbox style layout. 2 shoulder buttons, 2 analog shoulder triggers, and 2 rear buttons.
Okay.
Along with some interface stuff. So it's got view and
2 shoulder buttons, 2 shoulder triggers, and 2 back buttons.
Correct.
So there's 6 buttons on the back. Okay.
Well, it's triggers.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
I say back, but
triggers.
Okay, so when I talk about the Steam Deck, I specifically mean they are on the back of the system, and it has 2 triggers and 2
bumpers
L1,
and triggers.
L2, or right.
Yeah.
Bumpers and triggers.
Bumpers and triggers. Bumpers and triggers. Bumpers and triggers. It's also got a view and menu button, Xbox style. So pause and select is what you could call that. It also has a command center button. So think your Xbox Dual button, right? It's got the Asus Armory Crate button that is unconfirmed, but that's probably to get into the quick settings menu for games. So if you want to change, if you want to do things like keybinds, change the theme of your controls, that's
hey guys,
assumed.
We got a button on our new handheld. It's like a quick menu select. What do we call it? Armory Crate.
Well, that's an Asus proprietary thing they've been doing for a long time. Armory Crate is multiple applications. They used to be multiple applications. Okay. They've combined them into one to control RGB, fan speed, blah, blah, blah.
I thought they just flipped open a dictionary.
No, it's been around. They call it Armory Crate because they took what was a bunch of competitors' softwares and turned it into one thing. They bought them all out, turned them into one thing.
Called the antitrust button.
Armory Crate is nice because you don't need like 6 fucking applications to control all of your RGB. Because like if you have manufacturers like HyperX RGB RAM versus your Corsair RGB, mouse. This does combine all of them into one, so you get to control all your peripherals and all your.
That's true. I have 3 different fucking things on my computer to control its lights.
So now, this is where it kind of gets interesting. Is we assumed based on the build, because a lot of what we talked about last podcast was hardware and the prices. Like we were looking at competitors being up to like $1,500 to $2,000 in some cases for these handhelds.
Yeah, which some of them looked no different than what amounts to like a gaming laptop too.
Sure, the GPD Win and stuff like that. Yeah, totally. Honestly, some of them do look more like laptops than anything. I've got up on screen, if I do it better, both the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally. Now, there's a few obvious visual differences in color, slightly different button layout, and the lack of the touchpads for the ROG Ally. Screen size is the same, just sharper image, better refresh rate.
I mean, also just a better lighting in the photo, unfortunately.
Don't the position of the left analog stick.
That's the thing is you don't.
No, it's way too close to the edge.
It is pretty far to the edge.
When you hold the controller, your thumbs are in.
Yes.
Now you're going to have to do one of these things.
I agree with that, except for these things are huge. They're deceptively large. When you hold a Steam Deck, I mean, if you look at me right now,
I mean, if the pad of my thumb is about as big as that analog stick, it's like a third of an inch away from the edge of the device.
I'm not even really arguing with you. I'm just pointing out that they are huge.
Seems like they would have switched the D-pad bottom left, analog top right. But.
See, I think so too. The only thing is I've held the Steam Deck, and one of my biggest complaints is actually the location of the D-pad. Because if I were to use that as an emulation machine for something like NES and SNES or that era of games, that D-pad being all the way up in the top left is a little uncomfortable. It's not bad. It's fine. It's totally.
It is a weird place for the D-pad. Yeah.
It just feels a little bit. You move your hand and it's fine. It's fine. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I think both are reasonably ergonomic. But no, I kind of tend to agree with you. I do like the position of the left joystick a little bit better on the Steam pad. Yeah, or on the Steam Deck. Yeah, for sure. Pricing. It is. So this is supposed to have been leaked, so it is still just a rumor. But Asus has all but confirmed that these are either the prices or the prices at launch are going to be lower.
Oh.
So it is estimated that the Z1 Extreme model, the better of the two, the one with the 512 gigs of storage and the 8 cores, 16 threads, is going to come in at $699.
That's not bad.
Okay.
And that the regular Z1 series, 6 cores, 12 threads, and 256 gigs of storage is going to come in at $599. So $600 and $700 respectively. That puts it in range. That's literally a $40 difference between the middle of the line Steam Deck to the bottom end ROG Ally versus the top of the line of either. So
competitive pricing.
They don't have anything that comes in at that $399 value, but that's also a 64 gigabyte version, right?
Yeah.
So being that this is a Windows machine, I don't think they can really afford to do that because they haven't created their own operating system in order to
and you're getting into Switch territory, and there's no way you're going to.
This can run its own its own operating system, though, right? Like essentially,
so
right? That's what we were talking about. Last time,
so the Steam Deck comes with Proton.
Yeah,
that is the operating system that runs on the Steam Deck versus the ROG Ally that just straight up the Rogally, straight up runs Windows 11. So it is it is a Windows machine. And your Nick is grimacing, and Windows 11, sure, it comes with its own bag.
I grimace for reasons that probably won't have a problem on the hand.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
No, I get you. I have not upgraded to Windows 11 yet. First of all, I don't think it's a substantial enough upgrade from 10 to give a shit. It doesn't really come with any additional features that I'm missing on Windows 10. There will eventually be arbitrary reasons to go to Windows 11 because they'll do something like we don't support DirectX 13 on Windows 10, so suck it, get Windows 11. But I have not made the upgrade to Windows 11. That said, Windows 11 it's fine.
Like
it's Windows.
80 gigabytes of RAM so that it can load ads in your fucking settings menu.
So there's some things to be said about that in that Steam having its own operating system, Proton, on its handheld, it does come with some really cool features like the games that are vetted that are compatible with Steam Deck. They've got the green check mark. They also come with recommended settings already applied in the game when you launch it. Yeah. So you are getting, and it also comes with easily changed variables. Would you like quality graphic settings or performance?
It's a controlled environment.
Yes,
right? It's like the Apple environment.
It's a walled garden.
I was going to say that smacks of Apple feel. Actually, I was actually just thinking that.
So, but because it is a Linux-based operating system, you can really get in the weeds, download third-party applications. You can even run Windows from the Steam Deck if you want to, right? Yeah. It isn't necessarily the best experience because it isn't built for it, but it's
doable.
It is totally doable. It's a hacker's dream, right? So getting into that thing is like somebody that likes to tweak with their console settings or their Windows settings or their Linux settings. It's your wet dream. Now, on the other hand, you have the Rogally that has just Windows 11. It does Windows 11.
That sounds
it's Windows
more
11.
my speed.
So it's super simple. You download the apps that you want. You run the games that you want, and ta-da! It's
desktop and everything.
Standard desktop environment. Now, some interesting things. There is a little bit of there's some assumptions coming from the Rogally camp, in that it's expected that Microsoft is probably subsidizing the cost of this hardware right now.
Okay.
Because it's running Windows 11 and because it can be a test bed for what they have already announced previously, is that they are going to make a version of Windows 11 that is more catered to a handheld console environment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
See, the problem is they're only able to show us ads in the start menu when we're at our PC.
Right.
Now that we can leave our desk and still get their ads, that's worth the funding.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting though, because we did talk previously how this could be a PC replacement, being that it is running Windows 11, being that it is a capable machine, being that it already can be plugged directly into a monitor. You can plug in mouse and keyboard peripherals. And it comes with an unfortunately proprietary, but it does come with a plug to plug into an external graphics card sold by Asus. Okay. Asus did announce that they will be doing more SKUs than just the 4090 that we talked about previously, the $2,000 4090, and that they will probably be supporting the 2080 or the 4080 and 4070 as well. So it looks like there will be cheaper options. So
the Rogally is going to run Steam just fine, right? Like it would anything else.
Yeah, totally. Because it's just your regular Windows runtime environment.
Chat brought up a good conversation point.
Yeah. So you can still do all of the features of Steam. You can do all of the features.
It's Windows 11. It's going to be Windows.
It's
so
Xbox.
You do whatever you do on Windows.
It's ready for Xbox Game Pass. Yeah. I mean, if you can do it on your PC.
Does it have HDMI out?
Yeah.
Okay. So you could just use it as a computer.
100%.
You need to.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. So it looks like there's a lot of, I mean, if the price point is there, if it truly is going to be coming out at $600 and $700 respectively.
That is eyebrow raising. That's like, okay.
Yeah, that is a compelling price point. Like at this point, I look at it and I think, okay, well, if I'm in the market for a Steam Deck, what's this Rogally thing that just popped up?
Yeah.
And what does it do? Right. Mm-hmm. And if I am already a PC gamer and I like to play epic games on my computer,
boy, howdy.
I guess I just have to go the Rogally.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the money, you can index your bits, but Rogally will juice your ginnies.
It sure will.
A lot less Doleros.
So Ginny is the term for a female mule.
Yes, it is. So as much as I like the Steam Deck and love the concept, we're getting competition.
Mm-hmm. Competition is good.
I fucking love it, dude. There's actually like we talk all about these acquisitions and mergers and companies buying more companies, and dude, we're actually getting something else. This is
the free market.
This to me is
actual free market stuff.
This to me is like a fourth console manufacturer just announced that they're making a fourth console.
Yeah,
we are actually. I think we are starting to see the advent of another version of gaming, just like we got with VR. It's going to be probably more niche than regular PC gaming or console gaming, but we're seeing another burgeoning market, and I think that's just good for us, especially when it's breeding competition. So,
I will know the timeline is healed when the Dreamcast 2 comes out.
Definitely. I would
almost just made a joke about it's like Sega announcing another console or something. But like, no, honestly,
the unfortunate thing is if they ever announce another console, it'd just be the new Xbox.
Honestly, hearing you say that,
they're owned by Microsoft.
Honestly, hearing you say that, like, it's like this, they're kind of investing in. That's what all this is about, dude. Like, arguably, Xbox lost the console war, like, against PS5. Like that shit's over. I mean, it's over. I mean, maybe it's Starfield, but it's going to be ass. We'll see.
Here's my thinking. You're a businessman. You're doing business things.
Like,
you're not done. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. Console gaming. I mean, I don't think that's going to make it another maybe 2 generations before that's just.
I mean, the things console has going for them is they're plug and play, and you can put them on a big TV. Right. But if you're a businessman doing business things and you look at phone, like mobile game sales, and you see that it makes $100 billion a year, you say, how do we do that, but like with consoles or PC, and like let's make a Rogally. Right?
Yeah, no, that's.
I really think they're like we can make another mobile games market.
It does. This really does feel
right?
like a transitional time in video games where like it used to be video games were the fucking thing you had to get your parents to drop you off at to play most of the time. Or maybe you had a buddy who had a Nintendo or whatever, and then it would just the console was commonplace then, right?
Yeah.
Now I think we're transitioning. I think we might be looking at a transitional time out of that.
No, I agree. There's potential for it.
It kind of like, I don't know, it kind of fell on me like a ton of bricks sitting there.
Yeah.
Especially with Microsoft running, they're looking to get a version of Windows 11 to run better on a handheld system. Like,
well, yeah, and Microsoft sees a
cloud
space.
gaming right now.
Yeah. It was proven in court.
Yeah, it was. By the Queen's lawyer, in fact. So
not yet.
Not yet. No.
He's a newcomer. He's the new Smash character. It's really cool because it feels like it's a burgeoning new environment, right?
Picture the king with his crown, but it's the silhouette. A new challenger.
It's like the cartoon version of King Charles on like Versus or whatever.
His uppy just kills him.
I think it's super cool. I'm looking forward to reviews coming out for Rogally.
Fingers crossed it doesn't blow ass.
Yeah. And if it does, it's we
will tell you about it.
We will tell you about it, but that's not something that can't be fixed. As long as the hardware doesn't suck, I guess.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just have to fix Windows.